Call the Owatonna City Council meeting for Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Spendy.
Here.
Voss.
Here.
Dodson.
Here.
Burbank.
Here.
Boki.
Here.
Rainey.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
And Mayor Kunz. We have all 7 of the council present tonight.
Everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone on a beautiful night in Owatonna. We all survived the fair. Is that right, Brent? We all survived the fair. All right, good. So we'll get back to work then. First thing up is to approve the agenda. There are a couple of changes. Item 2 on the consent agenda, item 2.4.4 has been removed, and item 2.4.5 was moved to an action item, which is now 3.4.5. So with those two changes, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve as noted.
Motion by Brent, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Nate. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and the agenda is approved, so let's get going. The mayor's not here tonight. He didn't have any items, so we move on to the consent agenda. That consists of the city council meeting minutes, department reports, licenses, permits, and other miscellaneous items, all grouped together for the council to review prior to the meeting and vote on collectively. So I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Dan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Due to item 2.4.5, which is a purchase from my business, I will recuse myself from voting.
Okay, thank you. That's so noted. Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. We'll now move on to action items. First up is the finance report, and we'll go to Vice President Rainey for that.
Thank you. Checks over $20,000 for your consideration tonight are as follows. $26,723 Central Farm Services, that's for fleet fuel. $78,289 Crane Creek Asphalt, and that was for asphalt. $84,466 Innovative Masonry Restoration, that is for masonry repair, and tuck pointing, that was payment number 1 and 2. $582,577 Legion Subsidiary Holdings, broken out as follows. Merrill Hall, payment number 8 of $570,000, and Facility Needs Consulting of $12,577. $24,352 Mo's Contracting Services, that's for the Law Enforcement Center generator upgrade, payment number 5. $21,000 Moody's Investors Services, that is for the 2024 bond rating. $30,381 Near North Title Group, that's for the lot split, Fiskey purchase on 1304 Mineral Springs Parkway. $20,000 Owatonna Area Business Development Center, that is the EDA loan fees for 2024. $731,058 Rice Lake Construction Group, that is wastewater treatment plant expansion, payment number 26. $49,438 Steve James Excavating, broken out as follows. Overlay Prep Project, payment number 1 of $48,990, and dirt, propane, and right-of-way permit refunds of $448. $21,151 UKG Incorporated, that is the August through October 2024 subscription fees, and May through June 2024 usage overage fee. $23,507 WW Blacktopping, that is for hot mix for the overlay projects. Other expenditures tonight are $284,938 for total expenditures presented to the council tonight of $1,951,160.78. That is my report.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. We've all heard the finance report, so I would entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Motion by Dan to approve the finance report. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the finance report is approved. We have one ordinance this evening. It's item 3.2.1. It's the first reading of proposed ordinance 24-4. It's the Oak Hill Planned Use Development. And we're going to go to Troy Klecker from the Community Development to talk about that. Troy?
All right, thank you. We have a request here from Owatonna Hope Center to rezone property from B2 Community Business District to PUD Plan Unit Development. And what the PUD zoning district does is it allows uses, multiple different uses that might be permitted in different zoning districts, all within that zoning district. So we use that when we have multiple uses within the same building, which is the case here. So here they're proposing to take the old Mayo Clinic off of Southview Street and convert it into kind of a collection of nonprofit uses within the building. Within there, they would have a homeless shelter. Rachel's Light will be moving in. There'll be some offices. There'll be some clinic space as well as some storage space. So there will be a number of nonprofits that will collectively be occupying the space. Some of the uses, many of which fit into a B2, some fit into a residential district with the homeless shelter and the beds they'll have there, as well as some storage space for the home furnishing, or Furnishing Hope nonprofit would also be in there. They would be utilizing everything on the first floor. The lower level would be just used for storage. They do have a large parking lot on the east side as well as a smaller parking lot on the west side, so they would have enough parking to meet the requirements. Between the homeless shelter and Rachel's Light, there would be about 37 beds that would be available within the facility, all of which would be self-contained and locked. The separate areas would be locked for protection. We did have a public hearing at the Planning Commission. They did, prior to Planning Commission, hold a neighborhood meeting, which we encourage when there is a new use introduced into the neighborhood. They did do that. We also did have a public hearing at the Planning Commission. We did have one neighbor there that had some questions about whether housing could be constructed on the site and whether it is a tax-exempt property. And it will be a tax-exempt property. They have filed for tax-exempt status. As far as the housing portion of it, so what would be approved, if approved tonight, would be what is being proposed here. So if they are looking to add on, change the uses, do anything else on the exterior, that would all require an additional public hearing to amend the plan unit development. So the beauty of the PUD zoning district is it allows some flexibility from our normal zoning. But once it gets approved, it's sort of locked into what got approved. And so if you want to deviate from that, that would require a public hearing. The neighbors would be notified, and it would be reviewed on that. So in this case, the Planning Commission did approve what's being proposed at that location. And again, they've done much work in working with the neighbors for them to understand what's all being done here. And so staff would recommend approval of this PUD zoning request.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Questions for Troy regarding this planned use development? We had a presentation at our last meeting about it, so. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Nate to approve the first reading of proposed ordinance 24-4. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dan. Is there any discussion? Being none, as this is an ordinance, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Spenby.
Aye.
Voss.
Aye.
Dotson.
Aye.
Burbank. Boki.
Aye.
Rainey. And Schultz.
Aye.
All 7 ayes.
So that, with that vote, the first reading is approved, and I Assume we'll have a second reading at our next meeting, Troy. Would that be
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you. That completes our ordinances for this evening. We'll now move on to resolutions, of which we have 5 tonight. The first one is item 3.3.1, Resolution 83-24, the Oak Hill preliminary plat. And we'll go back to you, Troy.
All right, this is just a plating of that same property. Currently, it's 4 different parcels and would be platting it into one parcel. If we turn the clock back about 10, 12 years ago, the hospital and clinic were located there. The hospital was tore down, fairways put in, but the clinic portion stayed, and actually a portion of the hospital stayed as well, and that's that northeast portion of the building. And so it was the property to the north where the hospital was platted, but the clinic was not, because nothing was really changing there. So now that it's being sold and redeveloped into Oak Hill here, we're going to replat it into one parcel, so all the setbacks and everything could be met. So it's just a one parcel plat. Really, everything exterior-wise would not be changed. Parking, access, utilities, everything would all stay the same. So it's a fairly simple plat. It's just changing property lines. So again, Planning Commission had public hearing on this. There was no comments relative to the platting of the property into one lot, and so staff would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Questions for Troy on this preliminary plat?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Kevin to approve Resolution 83-24. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item 3.3.2, Resolution 84-24. It's to amend the boundaries of the tax increment financing district number 4-1 and amend the tax increment financing plan at the Oak Hill project. And back to you, Troy.
All right, so and the last piece of this is this TIF district that was created for the Fairway Foods project. So as I mentioned, the hospital property was tore down except for that portion that's in the red on that map there. That was connected to the clinic. The clinic retained that portion of it, and they did improvements into that space. That was included in the TIF district, and under the TIF plan and the development agreement, Mayo Clinic was to receive TIF funds to help reimburse for those improvements made to that property. And in that development agreement, they were supposed to maintain a clinic facility there. And I think 6 months ago, we amended that development agreement to remove Mayo Clinic from the development agreement because they were no longer operating a clinic out of there. That was the first part of the purchase agreement for Oak Hill. The second portion now is officially removing it from the TIF district. So because they will be tax exempt, there will be no increment generated from that portion in the red. And although it's in the TIF district now, this step right here is resolution would then remove it from the TIF district. So any increment generated will be generated from the purple area, shaded purple area, and that increment will be used to fulfill the development agreement in which Fairway was receiving tax increment financing for that project. So we have a TIF consultant that helps us with all of this to make sure we're doing everything right to state statutes and meet everything. And officially, it should be removed because it's not generating increment. It's not part of the development agreement anymore. So this action, this resolution officially does that. It removes that red portion. The remainder of TIF District 4-1 will remain in that purple area there. And everything else within the development agreement can be fulfilled from that TIF district that's remaining.
Hey, thank you, Troy. Questions for Troy on this amendment? Not, I would entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Dan to approve Resolution 84-24. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Is there any discussion? There be none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Move on to item 3.3.3, Resolution 85-24. It's to set the public hearing date for a tax increment financing district number 20-1 involving the Modern Air Apartments. And back to you, Troy.
All right, we have been working with the owner of that property, Modern Air Apartments along Bixby Road, for a redevelopment project. Currently, the Modern Air Apartments was an old motel, contained 12 units. All of the units are empty right now. And the plan is for that building to be demolished and that a 73-unit apartment building with first floor parking to be constructed on the site. 53 of the units would be market rate, 20 would be affordable units. We've had previous discussions on this, including the council approving an application for a grant for this project, which we are still waiting to hear back on. They've pushed back the award dates until the end of September on that, so we're still hoping to get something there. The developer is requesting tax increment financing due to the demolition and site costs, as well as making 20 of these units affordable. Right, this resolution just sets the public hearing date for October 1st. And we will have more information regarding the TIF plan and some of those numbers at the public hearing. This would be a redevelopment TIF district, which could go up to 25 years. And again, we're looking for October 1st to hold that public hearing. So staff would recommend approval of this resolution, setting the public hearing date for October 1st.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Questions for Troy on this resolution? Doug?
Troy, quick question, maybe a comment. That's my part of town across from my store for the last 40 years, so I'm very happy to see that you could keep the affordable units. It's been a nice place for people to live for a lot of years. The grant itself, is that from the state?
That is, yes.
And do we have any hope that they'll reply in a reasonable amount of time?
That we will get some of the funding from that grant for this project.
Within a reasonable time that we can get this going?
Well, we were expecting the awards at the end of July. They've pushed that back to sometime in September. So I'm hopeful that they will have those awards by that point in time. And you know, I think they're looking to start this project, at least start it before the end of the year here. So we are hopeful that we find out before then about that grant.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Troy? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Doug to approve Resolution 85-24. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Brent. Is there any further discussion? If not, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next two items, 3.3.4 and 3.3.5, are resolutions regarding donations to the police department by the Knights of Columbus and Fred and Diane Ventura. And I'm going to turn this over to Chief Mundale to tell us all about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President Schultz. So recently, Fred and Diane Ventura contacted me and they wanted to see if they can offer some sort of donation to help offset some budget costs that we may need. For example, training, equipment, uniform apparel, culture work at our police department. So I graciously accepted their gift, but before I can do so, we have to run that through council for a resolution pursuant to Minnesota law. So if you could be so kind to approve that resolution for department use, I'd appreciate it.
And you also have one from the Knights of Columbus?
Yes, so another donation we had around the same time frame was Knights of Columbus, Council 945, gave a generous gift of $3,000, again, for department use, and they requested that these dollars be used for officer wellness.
But that's awfully nice.
Sure is. So if you wouldn't be so kind to approve that through resolution, and recommend approval.
All right, thank you. So we'll take the first one, Resolution 86-24. It's a donation to the Police Department by the Knights of Columbus. I would entertain a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Kevin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Nate. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the second one is Resolution 87-24. It's a donation to the Police Department by Fred and Diane Ventura, and I would entertain a motion on that.
So move.
Motion by Dan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Nate. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Both of those donations are accepted, and we appreciate that, the Knights of Columbus and the Ventura family, and you can pass that along to them. That would be great, so.
I did follow up with a thank you note already, and that was attached to your agenda packet, so thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chief. All right, that completes our resolutions for this evening. We now move on to miscellaneous items. The first one tonight is item 3.4.1. It's a soil boring agreement at the wastewater treatment facility. It's retaining wall with AET, and we're going to go to Sean Murphy, our Public Works Director. Sean?
Thank you, Council. Good evening. This was previously an exploratory contract to perform soil borings and provide a geotechnical report with those findings. The existing retaining wall between the wastewater treatment facility and the North Straight River Parkway had some signs of unsettlement. There's some overturning that's occurring, and there's definitely some bellies in it as well. So we wanted to make sure that when putting new facilities just above that wall for the wastewater treatment facility, including water lines as well as a new circulatory roadway around our MBR building in that northeast corner was sufficient. The results of that geotechnical report and soil exploration was that there is a lot of garbage and debris similar to what was found on site that was part of previous change orders. Due to the depths that they were found, looking at a conventional wall, whether it was a poured footing or over excavating down to the elevations needed to, would be too costly. Probably run into some water table issues as well. For some of the over excavation that they did on site at levels higher than that, they had issues as well. So this consulting contract is or the amendment to the contract is to request AET to provide services for design of a RSS wall, which is a reinforced soil slope wall. So this is not a mechanical wall in any way. It's all earth and geotextile fabric. This way, there can be some movement within that soil slope that won't affect the above infrastructure. To AET and the project team, structural engineering on the project team, felt that this was the right approach in terms of a retaining wall to both protect our trail system as well as our investment in the wastewater treatment facility. The request or the amendment is $10,000 on top of what we previously approved at $18,575 for a total of $28,575. With that, staff recommends approval.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Questions for Sean on this agreement?
We spent the first 10,000.
18.
Spent the
18.
first 18?
Yes.
And did that bring back any hazardous material or anything that has to be disposed of?
No, not if we're not uncovering it. So again, this is an old,
Okay. And this is the same company that we spent the 18 for, and now we're looking for them to finish the,
to add on design services to it, yes.
thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Dan to approve the soil boring agreement with AET. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Is there any additional discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next three items, 3.4, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4, regarding change orders at the wastewater treatment plant. I'm going to go back to you, Sean. You want to take them one at a time or talk about them collectively? That's up to you.
I think I can go through all three of them collectively. They're fairly short. Two of them are price escalations. So we can start with change order 13. This is for materials that are scheduled to be installed within our admin facilities building out at the wastewater treatment facility. I believe they're tied to specifically drywall and aluminum storefront for the admin building. Since bidding, these items were, we could have paid for them a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but storing would have been more costly than probably the price escalation over the years. So it was an informed decision between our wastewater treatment staff, project team, and the general contractor, Rice Lake, to hold off on ordering these materials until absolutely necessary. So with that, the change order 13 would be just a shy under $10,000, so $9,276.28. The other price escalation is for ductile iron. And the ductile iron, we did as best job as we could to order all of the parts, fittings, you name it, that come from ductile iron that didn't require field measurement. So anything that we could do, we pre-ordered as in advance as possible. These ductile iron spools that are resulting in this price escalation is for all the field measurements that we need to do after those fittings have been put in. And the budget impact is $22,008.91 for that change order for price escalation. And then change order 14, this is our more typical change order with a handful of work change directives. So this one is comprised of 4 work change directives. The MBR grading modifications, so this is specific to maintenance on our MBRs. So they're big, I think they're about 6 by 6 by 8. They're called cassettes, and we have 32 of them, 32 or 36, don't quote me on that, throughout the MBR facility. And in order to take them out, to maintain them, clean them off, a series of grates need to be removed. And so grading modifications were needed in order to field fabricate to allow for easier removal. With that, the cost within the change order, 2/3 of that is being taken up by Rice Lake Construction Group because of ease of their work in order, because they'll have to put, or they'll have to install, remove several times for these MBR cassettes. So they're going to have significant savings by not having to go through the work of removing several grates. These modifications are easing their construction. Another work change directive is our RWC electrical gear relocation. As originally designed, there was HVAC systems and piping that were in the way for a more ideal location. throughout the course of construction, there was modifications to those conflicts within the RWC. And we're now proposing to have a better long-term location. So the electrical gear relocation is just that. We're getting a deduct from our process building generator feed. They found a more efficient route. And then the biggest one is our secondary digester interior coating. So after we took off the ceiling from our secondary digester, it was noted that there's some significant wearing in a lot of the interior coating. While it's open and due to the chemicals that are produced within our digester complex, it was highly recommended that we recoat this now rather than doing it down the road. Helps protect the concrete encasement, and with that, the total in change orders for, or total cost for change orders 13, 14, and 15 is $79,139.99, and staff does recommend approval for all 3 change orders.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Any questions on any of these 3 change orders?
I would just make a comment, if I could. I think that some might wonder about all these change orders and that, but I think the way that you and your staff went to market to get this project up and running has saved us money over the long run, rather than wait till we had all of the stuff to order at one time. I think, it might seem to the public that we're spending a lot of ups and extras, but I think we're money ahead in the long run.
And that's very true. And I've said it in past work change directives, especially to some of the price escalation that, we were putting away roughly $6 million for price escalation, and we haven't even hit 500,000 in terms of price escalation. Just due to the bidding climate and the unknown costs and availability of things, the way we approached it, I do believe we did save a significant amount of money in what a bidder or contractor might put in as risk at the beginning of the project. And as we sit right now, we're still at only about 2.5% above our initial bid price for change orders and price escalation. So again, projects like these, they can go anywhere from 3 to 10%. We're definitely on the better end right now, and I can thank our design team, our wastewater treatment staff, and our contractor for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Any additional questions, comments? If not, we'll take them one at a time. First one is item 3.4.2, facility expansion change order number 13. I would entertain a motion on that one.
So move.
Motion by Dan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item 3.4.3. It's a facility expansion change order number 14. I would entertain a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Brent. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dan. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last one is item 3.4.4, facility expansion change order number 15. I would entertain a motion on that one.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Kevin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is item 3.4.5. It's work order number 1 on the airport roof project with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson Incorporated. And we'll go back to you, Troy.
All right, this work order provides for design, bidding, and construction engineering services for the dome hangar roof replacement with Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson. We do have this in our 2024 capital improvement program. This would replace all portions of the 8,800 square foot hangar roof, including the membrane, the roofing panels as well as the insulation. And MnDOT Aeronautics, we do have participation from them on this project. The work order is for $37,800, and MnDOT would be covering 70% of that through state funding reimbursement. Our portion would be 30%, which is $11,340. And we'll be bringing to you the actual grant when it's completed here before we award the project when we get to that point. But MnDOT has awarded $500,000 for that roof replacement. And when we get that paperwork from them, we'll be presenting that for approval from the council before we would award this project when it's ready. So staff would recommend approval of this work order.
Okay, thank you. Troy, questions for Troy on this work order? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Dan to approve work order number 1 on the airport roof project. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our last item this evening is item 3.4.6. It's a service proposal for interim financial director involving Abdu Financial Services. And we're going to go to Chris Boosie, our city administrator. Chris?
Thank you and good evening. As you know, with the departure of our finance director, we have a need for some interim director financial services. We chose Abdo Financial Services because they are highly recommended from the League of Minnesota Cities. They only work with cities. They have over 60 years experience with cities. The contract that is attached is very flexible. The fees would range from $190 to $510 per hour, and it would depend on exactly what we needed done. So then you get the best bang for your buck on the services that you need, and staff would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Questions for Chris on this proposal? Not, I would entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Dan to approve a service proposal with Abdu Financial Services. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Nate. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Well, that completes our action items for this evening. We'll now move on to staff reports. And we're going to go Sean, Troy, Jeff. So Sean Murphy, our Public Works Director, what you got going on?
Just had a couple change orders on our wastewater treatment expansion project, so I might as well give a little bit of an update there. Our MBR building is going through startup for the next 2.5 months. So the supplier, Veolia, is going to be on site for the next 45, 50 work days, working through all the startup through our membrane bioreactor. So major component of our new process, major component of the project. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. We've had a lot of good back and forth with Veolia so far, as well as our contracting preparation for it. So we're excited to get that building up and running. Our 2024 street and utility project is underway. So that kicked off last week. And then we're still working through some mill and overlay work in small areas outside of our Cedar Avenue project, which was contracted out, as well as our self-performed mill and overlays that we did in town in the southeast. And then we are just waiting for a few final items from the route and seal project, but that is all but complete as well. So that's it for me tonight.
Been a busy summer. Thank you, Sean. All right, Troy, what's happening in community development?
All right. Well, we've had a pretty good construction season through the end of July. We're at over $64 million in new permit valuation, which is about where we were this time last year. Last year we had our all-time high of 110 million. I don't know that we'll get there. We had a number of big projects at the end of last year that really bumped that number up, but we're off to a really good start. The number of permits are up over this time last year by over 200. So there's a lot of projects happening. We've issued 6 single-family permits, 2 twin home for 4 units there as well. Looks like we got about another 4 that are in review right now. Last year we hit 21 single-family. I'm not sure we'll hit that amount too. What we're noticing is, it's a presidential election year. This happens every time we have presidential year, is people get real conservative towards election time. And so we're seeing that again here. Things are slowing down a little bit. Existing projects that are underway are Lake Meadow Apartments out on 24th Avenue Northwest there. We'll have another building being opened up for rent here September 1st. So that's 60 more units that become available in September. The Ascend project, they're starting drywall on the 4th and 5th floors. I know they've leased up 11 of those 69 units up to this point. The bank next door, you've seen all the stonework being done. They're starting some of the drywall on the inside. Humane Society has got the drywall done, and they're finishing the exterior. Foamcraft, we have the final inspection scheduled for that. Detention Center, the shell is up and roof is nearly complete. The saloon out at the fairgrounds, everybody probably saw what it looked like there. The shell is complete. They've got interior work now. Now that the fair is done, they'll finish up the inside. MS Brewery, which is a separate building but connected onto the Ascend project. That building is nearly enclosed. And then Steele County has started their Mill Street offices. The footings have started and they've been poured. So that one will be underway here real quick.
You're keeping busy this summer too.
Yeah, it's been last year we had a lot of really big projects, and we have some big projects, but we have a lot of smaller projects too. And so the numbers, we're getting good numbers. And so there's a lot of projects out there, and so we'll see how far this carries to the end of the year. And then, we're looking at lining up projects for next year here. And again, it's a little slow because of the presidential election here, but once the election's done, and it doesn't even matter who wins, it's okay, now we can game plan, now we know what to expect.
But we've been through this before.
Yes, it happens every presidential election.
All right, thank you, Troy.
Yep.
And Chief Mundell, what's happening at the police department?
Well, what I can tell you is we've been working on our law enforcement center in terms of the transition with the county. So I had the opportunity to speak to Renee Fry, the new county administrator. She provided me kind of a loose date on the end of the year that the county is looking to possibly move out. So with that timeline, just not too far away, I'll be working with Emily and HR on job descriptions for 3 positions that we have to fill for the records division. So we have to work on job descriptions, job posting, and selecting staff. One of those positions will probably be assigning within, so we'll be hiring 2 new employees to fill those vacancies that the county is currently providing us. I'm undergoing a post-board audit, which entails mandatory training for peace officer licensure, mandatory policies for our work, background investigations, our practices in that, and the minimum licensing requirements to be a peace officer. So we're providing the post-board those audits, and they'll be visiting our site September 9th. Mr. Boki was inquiring about, the grant opportunity we had for that, the IC Poet the intensive comprehensive peace officer education training grant that we received. So that academy starts October 1. It's been a long process, but we have identified a candidate. We're not quite ready to share who that is because they're still undergoing testing. So I would say in a couple weeks, we should be really finalized with that. We'll be signing a contract with the Hennepin Tech where we'll be attending that training. So the academy is 6 months, starts October. We'll see our candidate come out about middle of March. They'll take the peace officer exam for licensure, and then they will enter our field training program as a licensed police officer.
Great.
So that's about it.
Okay, Dan, you have a question?
I've got one question. I should have asked it earlier because we already approved this on the consent agenda. But the Walk to End Alzheimer's wanted police department help on the intersections of 18th and Cedar and 18th and Lynn. Is that to monitor traffic regardless of the stop and go lights so that they can continuously walk, or will that be an officer at each intersection during the entire length of the walk?
It's kind of twofold. They're actually asking us for contractual services to provide security because it's a fundraising event. But in addition to that, they're asking for some assistance, traffic control assistance, so they can cross the intersection of 18th and Cedar when they do their 5K walk. We're not going to plan on like shutting down the intersection. We're just going to help them across as the traffic signal regulates. It's not a race, not timed, so there's no urgency in the matter. We'll just be there for safety purposes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chief. All right, that completes our staff reports for this evening. Then we move on for public comment. Now is the time for anyone who's in the audience that wishes to speak to come forward. I ask you to sign in, state your name and address for the record. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes to deliver their comments. Kevin keeps track of that. At a minute 45, he raises his hand, and I ask that you start to wrap up your comments then. Those speaking are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner as they deliver their comments. Audience members are asked to refrain from reacting to comments, and the City Council will not respond directly to comments in this venue or take immediate action in response to them. So anyone who's in the audience that wishes to speak, now is your opportunity. Gary, I think you're up.
Got a lot more than 2 minutes. Sorry, I would have been up early.
That's okay. Mr. Jones did provide us with some information prior to the meeting that he's going to talk about, so we have that in front of us.
Gary Jones, 995 Ridge Road. Anyone ever have anybody copy your work in school? Well, someone has copied you, and that someone is your big brother, the city of Rochester. I know because I called and they told me. We emulated the Owatonna deer plan, except they did not quite. Owatonna hunts in 11 parks and has 28 parks. That's 40%. Rochester hunts in 11 parks also and has 135 parks. They hunt in only 8%. Rochester's 58 square miles, Owatonna is 14. They have 200 deer collisions a year, we have 11. We both hunt in 11 parks. Maybe we're overdoing it a bit. I took a day, you're not gonna believe this. I took a day, yes, and drove and visited all 11 of these parks. I wanted to see the difference between Owatonna and Rochester. Essex Parks, 160 acres north of the city, is an old farm with a barn. You drive by soybeans to get there. Foster Errand, 52 acres north of town by a gravel pit and industrial area. No houses. I don't care if an arrow hits a rock crusher, I'm worried about kids. Hadley Golf Course is north of town with some nice houses, but a long way from where they hunt. Once again, soybeans and cows on the way there. McQuillan Park is 85 acres and not really a park. It's a softball and soccer complex on the very southeast edge of Rochester. Wooded huntable areas are very far removed. Indian Heights is not really a park. It's a knoll on a 40-acre plateau overlooking Rochester. The path is dirt, 3 feet wide. Nobody's going to accidentally be there. Bear Creek is a very wild area, but it has softball, hockey, and bike paths, but quite undeveloped and remote. No kid is going to be taking a shortcut through there after school like Mineral Springs and Manthe. Greenhaven is several miles south of town, out of the city limits, 450 acres. You go buy corn and cows once again to get there. Willow Creek, south of Rochester, with high-end homes a half mile to the north and cornfield to the south. Not a park, it's just a woods. North Zembro Trail follows the river with homes way back due to the floodplain. When the Zembro gets high, it gets mad. The walking paths on each side are far removed from any hunting areas. South Zembro is still the same. Northern Heights is 60 acres. 20 acres is in a ball diamond. The other 40 are across the street down a steep ravine. There are no paths or homes down there. If you miss a deer with an arrow, it would hit a limestone bluff. Rochester hunts in 11 parks, and so do we, but they are remote and inaccessible. While we hunt in 0.9 acres at huntable land at Manthe and 3.2 at Mineral Springs. Rochester may have copied your plan, but they're doing it safely, and they're doing it around the perimeter. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak this evening? I guess not, so then we'll move on to council comments. And first up tonight is Kevin.
First of all, I want to congratulate and thank Scott Kozalka and the hundreds of volunteers that work the Steele County Free Fair. Weather was a little bit of a challenge this year. You didn't know from 1 minute to the next if it was going to rain or be 85 degrees and humid. But they kept the fairgrounds safe for everyone to be out there, and it was absolutely a wonderful event. Second, the next time that we meet will be the first day of school. So let's be aware as we're driving that some of these kids, it's their first time on a bus, first time crossing a street to get with their friends to get to school or come home from school. So please be aware. Slow down your driving. Stop at the stop signs. Let's make sure that our kids get to and from school as safe as possible. Last thing, congratulations to Jenna Tuma, who was recently named as our Assistant City Administrator. Jenna does a great job representing the city of Owatonna, and I'm very excited to watch her develop that new position. Thank you.
Great, well said, Kevin, thank you. Brent?
Nothing to add.
Hey, Doug?
Nothing to add.
Nate?
Nothing to add.
Dave?
Nothing to add.
Dan?
Nothing to add.
Oh, I'm down to you, Chris.
Well, I just want to add my congratulations to Jenna Tuma. I'm looking forward to working with her. I think she's going to be a great addition. She's going to really fit this role very well, and I am excited for what's coming in her future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I agree. We spent a lot of time developing that position, and I think it's going to pay off. Yes, as Kevin said, it's hard to believe the fair is over. The state fair starts this Thursday. It's Labor Day, and school starts. So that means the summer's almost over. Where'd it go? I don't know. So, but we'll keep going here. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Hopefully I get one.
One thing.
Oh,
Brett,
Jeanette?
Sunday is the airport fly-in.
okay. This coming Sunday?
Coming Sunday, the 25th.
The 25th.
August
That's
the
a, yeah,
25th.
yep.
7
Good.
to noon, the airport fly-in
That-
breakfast.
Yep, that's always a fun event, so thank you, Jeanette. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Doug. Do I have a second? This is gonna get worse as the year goes on, people.
Second.
Second by Dan. I'm sure there's no discussion, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, and we are done.